The name's McLife, and I've played D&D for years, and I've seen all types of adventurers. Unfortunately, though, I've seen another kind. The quiet kind. A calculating kind. The one who spends the entire session thinking as opposed to actually acting. Who stands back. Blade unsheathed but not swinging. Spell uncast outside of cantrips, and potions, of course, unopened. That's right, the resource hoarder, the player who refuses to play. And while they believe they're being strategic, what they're actually doing is murdering momentum, teamwork, along with, oftentimes, their fellow players. Never use anything now because the real fight is coming. And in their mind, it's reasonable. After all, most of us grew up in games that kind of punished impulsiveness. You saved potions you found, Phoenix Downs, elixirs, but at the end of the game, you finished with 99 healing items. The thing is that these players don't quite understand is that D&D isn't your traditional video game. There's no post-game reward for having a whole lot of awesome moments, going all out against the boss at the end, or having a bunch of untouched spell slots. The game systems are built for you to not conserve these until the final boss. But you will give me bonus points on YouTube if you like this video. You'll let the algorithm see it and show it to other people. Otherwise, that just doesn't really happen. You recover things on short rests, you recover things on long rests. The very pacing of the game assumes you'll be throwing out these abilities when you need them, not when you're forced to use them. If you never run dry, you never do anything with what you have. So why do players do this? This particular player, of course. Because somewhere deep down, I think the player, they want to feel in control. They want to feel prepared for every possibility. The surprise ambush, the second wave, the boss behind the boss. It's not greed. It very well might be simply them trying to be tactical, fearing that they might need their ace later rather than spending it now. Fear that they'll look foolish for overreacting. Fear that the DM is trying to punish them if they ever be bold and actually use these abilities. In D&D, being as unpredictable as it is, does feed that fear, because sometimes the next encounter could be worse. Maybe the DM does throw a boss fight right after one other one. But the thing is, D&D isn't a test at guessing the exact amount of cards in the DM's hand. D&D is playing your character, having your abilities and using them to the extent of which you can. Now yes, should you fireball a random goblin? Of course not. But should you do certain things, even dumb things, that might maybe boost camaraderie in your party, that might prove that your character is more heroic, wasting spell slots on maybe a creature that's really not even worth them, but who's about to do something, like kill a random villager? Stuff like that. Really, this pitfall can be avoided when it comes to it being fear-based, by really just trying to get immersed in your character. Now, the problem is that I don't think that being afraid of dying and holding back is the worst thing ever. There's something very, very worse. The myth of the cool moment. Now, the resource hoarder might, like I said, just be afraid and just hold back resources because of that. Or it can be something else. There could be a bit of ego to it. A desire to look cool. To do that epic thing in the most dire of moments. They think that their eventual cool moment will make up for their restraint in previous ones. They imagine the cinematic moment where they take out their staff, their wand, their blade, swing it around, conjuring forth their highest level spell scroll as they use all of their resources and obliterate the boss, rolling 1,000,000 dice on the table and dealing so much damage. This may feel cool. It might be cool in some situations, but your other players might not feel this same way, especially when it comes at a great cost. I have a story about a one-shot I did about half a year ago. There was a fair amount of players in it, and one of them was a paladin. Now this paladin, he went ahead and committed this pitfall. Truth be told, I run a great deal of games to where I can't quite remember his name, being that it was a one-shot, but I do remember he was based off of the main character from Gladiator, so we're just gonna call him Gladius. Now, his quest in this one-shot was that his squad of knights were to go forth and rescue some children, a noble pursuit. A party of knights arrived at the cave after some random encounters, and while they were there, they found the children were infected with some kind of disease that turned them all crazy. Now these children, being diseased and also wounded, were prime opportunities for a paladin to assist with. After all, paladins can of course heal, but they also have lay on hands which can cure diseases. When his other players asked him if he could help the kids, he refused. This was because the dungeon had not been fully explored yet. The final boss had not arrived. There were others deeper inside the cave to save. Now the players, disheartened by this and annoyed, for the most part let the matter settle. Time passed and they eventually fought some spiders, which damaged one of them a great deal. That character, truth be told, I don't remember the name of either, so we're just going to call him Iron Boy. He was a young Goliath, clad out in iron armor. He was a fighter, all about protecting people. Now, one of the spiders had their webs attached to Iron Boy in the fight, and whenever one of the spiders attacked, not even Iron Boy, but anyone else, Iron Boy immediately felt himself get electrocuted. Now another spider appeared and did the same to Iron Boy. So Iron Boy, while the group fought these two spiders, was being electrocuted by them. By the end of the fight, once the spiders were slain, he was not in very good condition. Iron Boy went ahead and asked Gladius if he had any, maybe healing or something that he could have. Gladius just explained that he couldn't really help Iron Boy at all. And so the party continued delving in further and fighting a crazy insect monster that ran forth and crit Iron Boy, impaling Iron Boy with an attack that dealt over his max HP and all of his current HP, causing Iron Boy to die instantly. Gladius ran forth and swung at the boss, with one hit smiting, another hit smiting, and another smiting a third time. The insect swung at him, stabbing into his armor, delivering a great deal of wounds to him, who, on his turn, used lay on hands to heal himself, and then swung forth, felling the creature with his radiant light. A joyous moment, perhaps, for Gladius's player, but then a question was asked. The other players were confused. They thought he didn't have anything to help Iron Boy, when he just answered that he was saving it for the boss fight. Monk Boy's player was obviously not very happy by this. Gladius wasn't supposed to be some kind of deceitful knight. He was supposed to be a hero, and perhaps Gladius's player very well thought this as well, but in practice, it didn't seem to be the case. His player, much like kind of death of the author syndrome, found himself playing his own character wrongly. Now, the group of knights returned to their commander, who, noticing that all of them were bloodied and beaten, except for Gladius, spoke with each of them privately, off-screen, and Gladius was challenged by his commander to a duel to the death, to which Gladius did not survive. Perhaps he should have saved his spell slots for the boss fight. Some words that really have become a meme in all of my games ever since, and overall a good learning lesson for even the player, who, after it, tried to kind of make excuses for what happened. I think he himself realized that he made a mistake, and so He didn't try and argue saying Gladius was really noble and he just did the smart thing. He kind of said retroactively, Gladius, he just wasn't really that good of a hero. He was kind of selfish and stuff purposefully. And while this, I don't believe, was the case, at least acknowledging mistakes is better than the alternative. Now we've gone into the pitfall of the resource hoarder, but what about signs to spot this happening? After all, it is a very hard thing to spot. So, I've made sure to take notice of it in any games that I run, to where if I see it, I can maybe have a talk with the player. So, how do I spot this? Well, if there is a situation where the player is able to go ahead and get close up in combat and deal more damage than they otherwise would at ranged, and they choose not to, instead staying in the back line using javelins and throwing axes when it's not the optimal thing to do, especially if more fragile, lower AC allies of theirs are in the heat of combat, that is the number one sign that you have someone who's committing this pitfall. Now, it is important to know that this is happening prior to a situation like Gladius. Gladius was a healer. He had spell slots. And especially in 2024 now, where spell slots for healing are 10 times better than they used to be, it is very noticeable if someone, especially a support, isn't really supporting their team that well. If someone is having this happen to them, what you want to do is go ahead and have a talk with them. Say, hey, so I noticed you're a life cleric and all, and you're not really helping out your team that much. Or I noticed you're a barbarian who really loves their great axe, getting into the thick of combat. My question is why are you in the back line? Not every character needs to do the most optimal thing as possible, but in these situations where it's a constant thing you see happening, you do want to have a look and see if this might be a sign. Now, there are situations where it does get a bit in the muck. I myself have tried to ensure that this doesn't happen as a player with any characters I play, although things can get complicated. So for instance, in an Out of the Abyss game I'm playing right now, my character has a dwarven thrower. Now a dwarven thrower, when you swing it just in melee, the only thing special about it, unless you're fighting a giant, is that it has a plus to hit and damage, a flat plus. Meanwhile, if you throw that weapon, you actually gain an extra d8 of damage. This is a lot of damage, especially as a fighter who can make a whole lot of attacks. Now the issue is that if you want to throw a weapon while in melee with someone else, that attack has disadvantage. So a worry that I've had, especially while the campaign was in 2014's edition, was that I felt I didn't really do that much for the team as a kind of tank if I was in the back line, but I dealt a whole lot of damage if I was even just a little bit away from the enemy. So it became something I had to really manage right. Otherwise, I'd be in a situation where my big, strong, super durable, or rather at least hard to hit, Goliath guy was forced to be kind of a coward. Now, there were situations where if I was at low HP, it made more sense for him to be in the back and stuff like that. But if I was the DM and I saw this happening, I might be a bit concerned that, hey, why is my fighter, Goliath, who is supposed to be super heroic, running away from enemies and letting his smaller friends get ganged up on? Another thing I do worry about too, playing a fighter for instance, is fighters have action surge. Could I wait to use action surge for the final boss, the big bad boss that appears? I could, but could I also just use action surge, just the dash, and get closer up to the enemies so I can protect my allies? I could, and especially early on in 2014's edition, that's what I basically had to do. Now, this pitfall, is it the worst one you can possibly have happening in your game? No. Not really. There's so many worse things that can be happening that can really ruin a game. While it might not inherently be malicious or bad intentioned, it does hurt the game experience, and can even result in TPKs, as the system itself intends for everyone to be using their abilities. It can even result in the character dying. Another character on the Abyss, not played by me, but played by another player, Michael Grace, a cultist of Asmodeus. Great player, great character, but truthful for a cleric of the Lord of Lies, but nevertheless, good solid guy. Maybe was intending on betraying us at some point, but in a pinnacle fight, he held back because he intended, presumably, to betray us afterwards. And hey, that would have been pretty fun. Unfortunately though, in the big fight, he held back, not using his level 4 spell slot, his highest spell slot. And because of that, he died. So, moral of the story, use your resources. Don't hoard them. The Resource Hoarder Pitfall is rated 3 out of 5 ones. Again, it is not the worst one that can happen in your game, but you don't want to see it going on. So DMs, players, be wary, keep your eyes out, and drink those elixirs already. Come on now, you're not getting bonus points if you beat Tiamat and have 6 potions of heroism in your backpack. Hope you enjoyed, and hope you like my other videos.